first video of the month, we're going to cover interim and fractional solutions and how they can serve the needs of private enterprises. To discuss this, I've got Tim Emmett and Greg Simsa from Bridge Leadership Solutions. Tim and Greg, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I'm Tim, and this is Greg next to me. We have a consulting practice where we do a lot of performance improvement with small and medium-sized, mostly family business, some other closely held businesses. We find that the normal situations where companies really benefit from like an interim role or a fractional role are those situations where they need somebody in the position, but they want to take the time really to find the permanent person. And that lends itself very well to an interim situation.
First, once there's a need identified, it's really trying to step back and making sure you've got a clear definition of exactly what are the needs of the company. So what's the type of person? What's the type of resources? Our perspective is that there's not a one size fits all, solution. Mm-hmm. And so taking time to step back and really saying, all right, what are my options here? I think is step one. Obviously a permanent is the right option for a lot of companies. But again, we just encourage people to step back and ask the question in terms of, is there an alternate here? Do you have a deep team? Do you have people that can step up and, fill a gap, while you're searching for that next person? Maybe it's a situation where you don't have a succession plan. This wasn't a known event. Life happened, and all of a sudden you find that you need to replace somebody, shortly. I think from my perspective, stepping back and really doing that, I think a fractional or an interim often can bring a perspective, a fresh outside perspective to say, hey, you guys are going down this path and you've got a clear definition in your minds of what you need or you're looking for. In a family business, a lot of times, sometimes they have blinders in terms of they've been doing certain things a certain way for a long time. And in fairness, a lot of times it's worked well for them. But I think what we find is for companies that really want to, are intentional about taking something to the next level, they should take that pause and really ask the questions of, what do I need today? And then what do I really need for where the organization is going? And that's where interim and fractional resources and often the experience and perspectives that they bring can help in that process.
One thing I would cue in here, if I may, is one of the central issues we find in leadership transition in family companies is that the incumbent CEO has oftentimes been there for multiple decades, and they'll have issues letting go of control. And that central issue, letting go of control, can be a big risk for a permanent hire. Could you guys perhaps reflect on how the fractional or interim solution can help mitigate some of those challenges?
So, yeah, that's a common problem that we see is, especially founders of businesses, it's their baby, right? They started it, they grew it, and they're continuing to grow it. And letting go of that control can be extremely difficult. If the next generation isn't quite ready, then this is a great opportunity to bring in an interim solution or even a fractional solution or even a consultant, frankly, to help coach that next generation and to help bridge that gap between, father and son or mother and daughter or whatever that, situation is, and help resolve any conflicts in their different goals. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we see is the next generation, a lot of times, they want to do things very different from how the past generation, and they think they've got a better mousetrap. Having a third party come in can really help distill that down to, do you really have a better mousetrap? And ask those difficult questions, both down and up in that relationship.
Tim, if I could just add to that,
Sure.
I think, again, this interim fractional, and of course, you want to make sure you hire the right interim and fractional. That's just as important as hiring the right permanent. But I also think in that process, a lot of times the interim or the fractional comes into these family businesses. They've seen a lot of things, right? So they've seen, again, here's what you do today. But they also often have a vision for where do you really need to be? So let's say the finance function, I'm thinking about a CFO, a fractional CFO, and let's just say they haven't really kept up on collection methods, or they're not doing cash flows or forecasting and some of those things. It really provides an opportunity to really talk to the CEO right before they're going and making a permanent placement decision to really say what are the skill sets that you really need, and is there alignment right in terms of, do we want to take this function to that next level, or are they looking for more of a caretaker?
Mhm.
They like things the way they are, status quo. We're happy. We don't want to change. That may be appropriate for the business as well. But I think really flushing that out really helps when you get to the permanent, placement decision and finding that right, long-term resource.
One point that I would add when I am advising clients to look at fractional or interim executives is when we sense that there's a high risk of conflict in the transition from a principal managing the business to a hired gun, so to speak. And the central reason is a permanent hire has severance clauses in their contracts that will mean if the new hired executive comes in and comes into conflict with a family principal that's having difficulty letting go or resistant to change, that severance contract can have a big financial impact on the business, let alone the cultural impacts of conflict in the executive suite. A interim or fractional executive, by design of the contractual relationship, is ultimately easier to change than a permanent hire would be.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Bill. And, I think along those lines, you're reminding me, I mean, a lot of times, particularly in what we have today when we're recording this video, which is a really competitive labor market, you have to be realistic about, if you're looking for that permanent solution, it may take several months to find that person, to really vet them, to do your background, make sure they're the right fit. And in the time, do a realistic assessment about, can you survive, or do you really need some type of support, again, in that, whatever that transitional period might be. Again, right now in this labor market, finding the right person for a lot of companies is time consuming because they're not, necessarily readily available or easy to find.
You asked about the case study, and the first case study that we assembled was actually a fractional opportunity for both Greg and I. It's where an individual had purchased a business. Person had a tremendous sales background, had a great industry background, and understood the products and the customers very well, but had no experience really running a business, wasn't financially, as strong as he could have been. So he brought us in for a period of time as he learned the business, and we were able to help him assess his team, make some changes there to make improvements and to get the business on an even stronger footing, if you will. And then gradually we phased out as we brought in people in both the president role and in the CFO roles.
I'm pleased to share that Strandberg and Bridge Leadership Solutions have partnered in the creation of a tool that can help you understand the difference between fractional, interim, and permanent hires, and help guide your clients or perhaps yourself towards which solution is most appropriate for you. The link to that tool is in the caption below. In our next video, we'll cover how permanent hire is a solution that is different from interim or fractional, and how that might be the best solution for you.